Broadcasting from the Tasman Lake Lodge studios, this is Sporting Journal Radio. Presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. Now here's your host, Brett Amundson.
That's right. Welcome to the show. I am Brett Amundson. Thank you for tuning in on the network by demand, sportingjournalradio.com, or by subscribing to that podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Dan Amundson is with us as well. Dan, how's it going?
You know, I'm sitting on the shore of one of my favorite lakes. I couldn't be doing much better. It's a gorgeous afternoon.
Where are you?
I am sitting on the shore of Leech Lake. Sitting outside Trapper's Landing, just had a nice lunch there, and it's a beautiful afternoon, watching a couple paddle boarders go by and a boat probably going out trying to catch some walleyes, which I wish them the best of luck. It's not been easy this week.
You've been doing some
fishing? But it's a
fishing?
gorgeous area. We have. You know, we've got a place in Hackensack, and we don't have internet, so that's why I'm up here using Trapper's Landing's internet. Thank you very much. But we fished Leech the other day, and it's tough. You know, it's August. It gets hot, and we've talked about how you can find walleyes. There's definitely walleyes to be caught, but this lake's ridden with zebra mussels. We got out there late in the morning. Didn't stay very long. I had some motor trouble. We found a bunch of little perch, which cause issue with trying to run anything. They peck away at your live bait. They peck away at your jigging wraps, whatever you're using. And the walleyes love to eat them instead of what you're putting down there. So it can get tricky, but there's still a steady bite. People are finding fish. They're there to be caught. You just got to work for them a little bit. And with our motor trouble, we didn't have the opportunity to work for them enough. So we're going to eat some frozen fish tonight instead of a fresh caught dinner.
How are the water levels there on Leech?
It's low. You know, Leech, it's not as noticeable just because you're on a bigger lake, but you know, I'm sitting here looking out. They've got a flagpole and a rock pile that I would guess on a normal year. I've not spent much time in this part of the lake, but I would guess on a normal year, you wouldn't see these rocks. You might just see the flagpole, but you can see that rock real well. But everything up here is low. All the little ponds are real low. We haven't seen many ducks like we normally do. We've seen a few geese, a few swans, but it's not like it's been. It's causing some concern for the upcoming waterfowl season, that's for sure. I don't know what to expect, but we need some water. We need some rain.
Well, we're going to talk more about what people are seeing out there for waterfowl and dry and wet conditions. Ross Hagermeister from Meister Guide Service will join us. He's up in Ottertail Lakes country. He'll give us a fishing report, too, here in just a little bit. Darren Troseth is going to join us. He guides down in the metro area on the rivers down there, and he catches big, giant catfish and big, giant sturgeon as well. We're going to talk to him about how fishing has been for those giant species, as well as what landing conditions are like right now and what the water levels are like on those rivers. As we know, they're pretty low, but we'll hear about his experiences with that. And then Joe Henry's going to join us, too, and he's going to talk about fishing Lake of the Woods and how to use weights effectively to fish bottom fish, to get down there to look for those walleyes. And he'll be joining us here this week as well. Dan, who is this week's show brought to us by?
Yeah, this week's show, as always, brought to us by Lake of the Woods Tourism. Plan a trip to Lake of the Woods at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. Ottertail Lakes Country, find your inner otter at ottertaillakescountry.com. Haybell Heights Campground and Resort in Devil's Lake in North Dakota. Plan a trip to Devil's Lake at haybellheights.com. Get ready to go out on those snow bears this winter. OnX Hunt, know where you stand with OnX. Prairie Sportsman, watch episodes anytime at prairiesportsman.org.
So speaking of North Dakota, Dan, the early Canada Goose season, of course, is coming up. A lot of people are excited about going to North Dakota, and I've had a few people ask me about it this year, and I don't know if I'm going to make it over there this year or not. Obviously, it's real dry. Birds are going to be concentrated. Hunters are going to be concentrated. It gets to be last couple of years have been kind of a chaotic mess over there, just a little bit as people just cruise over there to try to shoot all these Canada geese. So I don't know if I'm going to make it this year, but it's going to look a little bit different for those hunters that are going to North Dakota this year because of e-posting. And now Doug Lear was on the show with us back in May, I think, Dan. You can watch his interview on our YouTube channel or on the Sporting Journal Radio Facebook. How's it going there, Dan? Sounds like you're just smashing that computer over there. All right.
Yeah, we're working on some things.
So there, you can watch our interview. You can watch it too at sportingjournalradio.com. Doug Lear talks about how e-posting was going to change things in North Dakota this year. And now that it's almost hunting season, the North Dakota Game and Fish Department has also put out a video kind of explaining where we're at, how you can use e-posting, how you find out what land is posted, what land is not posted. And we've got that video as well at sportingjournalradio.com. In fact, we just put it up now. If you go to sportingjournalradio.com and you click on news and shows on the tab up at the top, we'll get Dan, see if Dan can show us. Nope, Dan's gone.
I'm working on it. Well,
all right.
That wasn't it.
Well,
we're getting there.
You can go to
Here it is.
Did you find it? All right.
Up there.
Kind of, sort of.
Should be there.
There it is. So how electronic posting, e-posting works in North Dakota, and the video is currently unavailable. Okay, perfect. Well, in any case, they've got it on, maybe you can embed it. We embedded it. It worked earlier, but North Dakota Game and Fish Department has a video on e-posting in North Dakota right now. So if you're planning on going over there, make sure you understand how the trespass laws work, because they are different from years past. All right, Dan. Well, that Canadian border is opening up, and people are excited to get up to Canada. While Tazen Lake Lodge is not open this year, they are booking for next summer already. And if you don't know, you probably heard us talk about that place a lot. But a new season of Tazen TV is coming out, and here's a sneak peek of that.
Oh, it doesn't get any better for sure. Yeah, it's special.
It's probably going to be my best trout day ever as far as size and numbers of size in my life. I imagine unless I get back here.
Certainly, it's a big part of it. You know, a lack of fishing pressure is huge, and then of course just the fishery itself, the resource is huge as well.
That's a new personal best pike here for me. Huge fish here at Tazen Lake.
We're still shaking.
Giving you a workout.
Absolutely. Awesome.
That's her moonshot behind you.
That's awesome. Tazen Lake experience. Right there.
Whoa.
It must be overflowing. Coming around here unless that's all the time.
And we got trees down all over the place. Trees there, couple of trees down here.
Well, Trevor, you got a chance to walk through camp. What do you think?
Well, we thought we were just going to slide in here for a nice 7 easy days of fishing, but it looks like we got a little cleanup to do.
So all new Tazen TV is coming Tuesday, August 10th. Tuesday nights, each Tuesday, Tazen Tuesdays, each Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central on the Tazen Lake Lodge YouTube channel and Facebook page. You can watch new episodes of Tazen TV. Dan, what's your favorite memory of Game Fair?
Yeah, I don't know if it's actually my favorite memory, but the first thing that popped into my head, you're going to remember this. You like to take a lot of pictures of the dogs at Game Fair. And there was an afternoon you and I decided to take. It was Echo and Mika. They were sisters. We had Echo. Mika's your dog, obviously. Everybody knows that. But you wanted to go down and take some pictures. And it was just a simple water retrieve down a hill, up and back. They timed it. And so you're down at the bottom of the hill taking pictures. And, Dan, can you hold Mika for me too? Well, they were really young. I bet they were 1, maybe 2, if even that. And I'm waiting in line. They're getting anxious. They're watching these dogs go with the bumpers and ready to go. And finally, I think they both kind of looked at each other. Both dogs looked at each other and said, screw this. We're not waiting. We've got a 120-pound kid holding us. And took off. And here went, 13-year-old Dan going down the hill getting dragged by these 2 yellow labs. They had finally got him to stop before they hit the water, but I came up real muddy and not my most proud dog owner moment, but it's the first one that comes to mind. And honestly, they settled back in and actually ran the trial real well and had a lot of fun. But now after a little bit of blushing in the face and some mud on my legs and a few laughs by everyone else in the audience. If you were there, you probably remember that. That's a hard one to forget. But man, Game Fair is awesome. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's my favorite. It's my favorite outdoor show. My favorite outdoor event show that takes place, and it's outside. You get to bring the dogs. It's pretty neat. So Dan, while I'm talking about it, why don't you pull up some pictures from? Do we have a picture of you all muddy? Dragging those dogs. See if you can find one of those.
I hope not.
Game Fair is back, by the way, August 13th, 14th, 15th, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, August 20th, 21st, and 22nd. So next couple of weekends in Ramsey or Anoka at Armstrong Ranch there in the Northwest Metro. The Twin Cities, it's a good time. I'm planning to get out there one of those days. I'm not sure which day yet, but probably try to bring Tiny and maybe Mika down there and wander the grounds at Game Fair, maybe August 20th, something like that. Because what I'm thinking about doing, Dan, is there we go. Some Game Fair pics. We used to take a lot of pictures down at Game Fair, for sure, of how can you not take pictures of those dogs going off docks and running obstacle courses and all that cool stuff. So anyway, I'm going to go down there, and then I'm going to run down to the Bluffland Whitetails Banquet, which is taking place that night down in the southeast as well, too. So if you're down the southeast part of Minnesota and Bluffland Whitetail country down there, you should come join us at the Banquet, which, again, is going to be August 20th. I'm going to look up exactly the details about it here, but that's a good time down there, and I'll be emceeing that event. So if you're down there in that part of the world, come and join us down at the Bluffland Whitetails Annual Banquet, August 20th. It's taking me forever to try to find this information.
The internet always seems to be real bad the moment we need it the most.
Right. Oh, gosh. There it is. August 20th at the Moose Lodge in St. Charles. That will be August 20th once again. And it doesn't see what time it's starting at, but I'm guessing probably around 5 or so, something like that. You can check them out at blufflandwhitetails.com in any case. All right. So there you go. Pictures from Game Fair. Game Fair coming up. If you get out there, have fun. Maybe we'll see you out there. All right. More Sporting Journal Radio is on the way. We've got Darren Troseth coming up. We've also got Joe Henry on the way. And right now we're going to check in with Ross Hagermeister from Meister Guide Service.
Devil's Lake is legendary, and this summer has been legendary for walleyes. Don't miss out. Call Haybale Heights Campground and Resort today to book one of their modern cabins on East Bay. The cabins are furnished with a full bathroom, kitchen, and all the amenities like high-speed internet, and are clean following CDC guidelines. Staying at Haybale Heights gives you full access to a private boat launch, fish cleaning station, and beach area. Learn more at haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. Plan your trip to legendary Devil's Lake today.
Welcome to the show. I'm Brett Amundsen. Thanks for tuning in on this station right here by streaming on demand at sportingjournalradio.com or by downloading the podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts or by watching the show here on one of our social media platforms. Dan Amundsen is with us too. Hey, Dan, how's it going? All right, and now we're going to talk fishing. Good. Ross Hagermeister from Meister Guide Service joins us right now on the phone here. Ross, how's it going?
Not too bad, man. Thanks.
It sounds like you've been pretty busy out there.
Yeah, it's a midsummer thing, and guiding is a popular deal right now, and I have a lot of folks that keep coming back every year, so I just keep on the water.
What have you been mainly targeting lately?
Primarily walleye. I have been doing some crappie stuff, but the walleye are still kind of the king fish here. And last year it seemed like I was doing a lot more on the bass end and the crappie end. And this year it's been a lot of walleye requests. And so I typically go with the requesting, and I like staying on singular species when I can, because then I can just stay current on that species and can get maximum catching out of them, that kind of thing. So if you stay with them and don't get too stretched out, then it works better anyway.
You're up in Ottertail County. It's been dry everywhere lately. What are conditions like for you up there right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like when I'm leaving the access points on several lakes right now, I have a lot of my guests get up on the bow to bring my back end up, just because that extra couple inches of lift and back keeps my engine out of the dirt. So we're kind of at that point. Some lakes are non-functional or dysfunctional, where I'm kind of wondering how all of the lake residents are going to get their stuff off the lakes, because we can't hardly get boats off roller trailers getting into them. So bunk trailer boats, big pontoons, bunk pontoon setups, looking pretty tough, man.
Man, it is crazy. I mean, I know we've gotten a little bit of rain here and there, but it's nuts. Like, and I know you like to waterfowl hunt too. And everywhere I go, all the little sloughs are all dried up. The birds are concentrated on the big water, and that could mean that all the hunters are going to be concentrated on that big water come this fall too. And they're probably going to get bumped around quite a bit, because they're going to get hit pretty hard. And North Dakota just put out their brood or mid-July brood survey or whatever it was. I can't remember their duck survey that they do in the summertime, and it was pretty low. So I don't know. What are you seeing for small potholes and waterfall numbers up there?
It seems like we still have water in most of them. The rice is crazy this year. Like, it is thick. I mean, on offshoot sloughs, 100-acre things that are typically, there's a little rice here and there. This year it's like full rice. I'm seeing a lot of ducks yet, a lot of young woodies and teal and young mallard families really showing up a lot up here. As far as where that water is going to be in another by youth opener or teal or whatever, kind of a question mark. I mean, this is ridiculous. The warm air. I mean, I'm watching the Galdang Lakes go down a half an inch a day, somewhere in there. I mean, it's just like sucking it dry.
Yeah, it's bad right now for sure. I like how I said that, the teal or whatever. How do you feel about the early teal season this year?
I am not big on it, man. I just, it's one of those things where as a longtime waterfowler like yourself, just kind of waiting until a good time. And, I guess, and part of the conflict there is the youth hunt. The youth hunt, in my opinion, was a great way to get youth out for a day. And then last year I went to 2 days, and I was like, does it really have to go for 2 days? I mean, the singular day thing was a good chance for parents and kids to get out and this and that. And it was a really good idea. I do it with my kids. We love it. We do it for 1 day, and it's phenomenal. I don't think it gets enough attention in some ways. Now, put the teal season ahead of that, it's kind of like, well, where do the youth fall in then? Like, are they second place? The ponds are going to have dudes standing out there for 3-4 days. And then what's it going to do to the standard regular duck opener? Kind of does that answer your question? I kind of wish they'd kind of not do it. And then, I don't know, other states that don't get a lot of waterfowl, like Kansas and this and that, I hear quite a bit about those hunts down in those areas. Minnesota, we have a lot more going on with waterfowl producing. So it seems that by just regular opener or youth opener, things are kind of ready to do it. I don't know. That's my answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, and it's obviously everybody's got varied opinions because everybody hunts a little bit differently and has different priorities when they're out there. My big push for the early teal was that hopefully we could get some days, we could push the regular season opener back a little bit. That'd give you more time in between the teal opener and the regular season start to rest birds a little bit. And then I like hunting late season. I like hunting later in the season anyway. So I was hoping it would give us more days on the back end. That didn't happen. So I'm kind of indifferent on the teal season. I'm definitely gonna go out and hunt. I'm not excited about hunting when it's going to be 90 degrees, swatting mosquitoes, standing in a slough. That doesn't really get me too excited, but I'll go out there and hunt, and obviously early goose will be open too. So we'll hopefully shoot some geese at the same time. But Ross, I know you're busy. I know you got clients there. I want to get back to walleyes for just a second. With water levels down, with hot conditions, real dry conditions, has that changed your approach this year at all when it comes to targeting walleyes?
Yeah, and every year I'll give the same answer. Like every year is different, and this year we just happen to have really warm water and cloudy water on some lakes and clear water on some lakes, and location stuff was different this year and still is different. You add 3 feet of water back to the lakes next year, and it'll be different again. And so fishing is a problem solving process, and you have to roll with it, or else you don't do very well. And so if you go out to the same water you were fishing last year at this time, just because you caught some there last year, it probably isn't going to work. So
it's like duck hunting almost. You can't always go back to the same slough or the slough you hunted last year. You got to scout, and you got to go try to find walleyes the same way you're out there trying to find ducks. I've been hearing a lot about finding them in shallow water this year. Are you fishing shallow, deeper? Do you have a preference?
No, I prefer shallow water fishing, period. The survivability on fish and catch and release stuff is just really top notch. I mean, it's just a perfect setup. And then with hanging a bunch of lines out of the boat, the shallower the better. Folks that don't fish very often, it's just an easier setup for them. So shallows, I'm always looking shallow on every lake that I fish all season long. Doesn't always work out. They're not always shallow. So typically a lot of the better fish are shallow. So that's another angle on that. Shallow. I'm pressing shallow no matter what year it is. Typically on these really hot years, the fish are shallower, period. Thermocline's set up a lot higher. Weeds are doing different things. Water staining is different. So it just drives a shallow bite typically on these hot years. Hot years are fantastic fishing. It's always really good.
Are you slip bobber fishing with some of these guys? Are you pitching plastics or a little bit of both?
Yeah, just I do pretty much everything, and when one thing isn't working, I just flip into the next thing, and then that doesn't work real well. And sometimes it is customized and directed towards the abilities of the folks I take fishing. So if they can't do one thing, then we'll maybe Lindy rig a little bit here and there, and if they are pretty good at jigging, then we'll throw jigs. So I like to really vary it, but ultimately it's about my guests getting to reel fish in, and I can't use like a jig and wrap thing with a lot of groups. I mean, it just that's no good. It just takes too much time to develop a sense for that. So make it as easy as possible. That's kind of the way it is.
All right. And how long are you going to be guiding this summer?
I'm going all the way through mid-October, and then I just pretty much stop. The fishing does bite off quite a bit by then, and then I'm ready for a break, and then I have to get ready for the ice fishing stuff.
Sure. All right. Well, if people want to get on a guided fishing trip with you, how can they reach you?
Just meisterguideservice.com on the web is perfect. Cell phones can do all that, and then go from there. I've got contact information and phone numbers and stuff like that. All
right, Ross Hagermeister, Meister Guide Service. Good luck this afternoon. Thanks for the time here today on the show.
Thanks, Brett.
Did you know there are more than 1,000 lakes in Ottertail County?
Yep, and I'm going to fish as many as I can. I'm an outdoorsy otter. Nothing beats a full day of fishing for me. The lakes of Ottertail County give me plenty of options to lower my boat and snag the perfect catch. Not an outdoorsy otter? No problem. Ottertail County has something for everyone. You just need to find your inner otter. Go to this site right here.
All All right, welcome back. I'm Brett Amundsen. Thanks for tuning in on this station right here by downloading the podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts or by streaming it on demand at sportingjournalradio.com or by watching it on our Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram channels. Joe Henry's going to join us now from Lake of the Woods Tourism. Joe, how's it going?
Hey, Brett, doing good.
That's good. I appreciate you joining us here on the show today. How things been going up on the big lake up there?
Fishing's been good. You know what? Lake of the Woods really shines this time of the year, and I'll tell you why. Is we're in a deep summer pattern, and when you go to other lakes around the state that have a lot of walleyes, you get a couple things going on. You got warm water temps, you got a lot of weeds, which makes it more difficult to find and get to those walleyes, and you also have a whole bunch of bait fish that are now that perfect size for walleyes to eat. The perch, the sunfish, the minnows. All those things are competition, millions of them. So it's much more difficult to catch those walleyes consistently on some of those inland lakes. That's where kind of Lake of the Woods shines right now. Brett, we got that late summer pattern, which your family took advantage of here a couple of weeks ago. And, that's a good number of those walleyes are out in that deep mud. And I say deep mud, 30 to 36 feet of water. And they're in Roman schools out there. And there's two main methods to catch them, and it's fun. It's pulling spinners with crawlers, and it's trolling crankbaits. Tell you what, you get out there, you cover water, you're going to have a level of success. Good chance you're going to get some big fish as well.
So let's talk about that a little bit more, because we obviously talk about pulling spinners and pulling cranks on Lake of the Woods quite a bit. But the key is getting down to the bottom where those walleyes are. So that was a couple of things that we had to think about when we were out there in the boat. A couple of decisions that had to be made, because we were a collection of different anglers, all with our own gear, all coming from different places, all going to fish a lake that we don't spend a whole lot of time fishing, using techniques that are maybe a hair different than we might use in other places. Some are pretty similar, and some have used a bottom bouncer and and a spinner quite a bit in other places. But we had to sit there and make sure. And usually on our trips too, Joe, we will rotate guys through the boats. So guys get to fish with different guys, and it's a chance to catch up with family and whatever. So the problem you run into is, if we're going to fish one way, we got to make sure everybody has essentially the same gear or the same way to get down to the bottom. So when it comes to getting down to the bottom and using different weights, what's your preferred method of doing that?
Well, I think first off, let's talk about pulling spinners. And, when you talk about bottom bouncers and spinners, certainly I say bottom bouncer, but, on Lake of the Woods, we don't have the weeds. And if you're not fishing around rocks, you can certainly use an inline sinker just as easy. Now, the kicker is, I always recommend using a 2-ounce weight, a 2-ounce bottom bouncer for fishing anywhere from 5 to 30 feet of water. It's very versatile. You can go up and down, shallow, deep. Maintain that 45-degree angle, and you're going to be trolling, give or take, at about 1.25 miles per hour. Now, if you're going to be fishing that deeper water most of the day, 30 plus feet of water, go with a 3-ounce bouncer right away. It's that much easier to maintain that 45-degree angle.
I'll tell you, I don't want to interrupt you, Joe, but I'm gonna. But the a couple of us were using 2 ounces to start with, and then we all pretty much made the switch to 3 ounce, and it was like, boom, fish started snapping right away. So we all went to 3 ounces. You get so much
more control. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, when you're pulling spinners, it's not like pulling cranks where you want your line way behind the boat. You want that 45-degree angle. It's good for a lot of reasons. It seems it's just a good angle to catch fish. You got more control. And if you go over rocks or other debris or other stuff, you can be more vertical, which is going to get you hung up less, versus when you're horizontal, you'll get way more snags. I don't drag my weight in the mud or the rocks or the sand. I touch it and then just keep it off. Touch it, know you're down there, and keep it off. On Lake of the Woods, the majority of the time you're going to be fishing walleyes and saugers that are relating towards the bottom of the lake, or they're pretty close to it. And then, when you talk about, go ahead, you're going to ask something.
Well, I was going to ask some, but if you're going to stay on, I was going to change the topic, but if you're going to stay on bottom bouncers and spinners, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I would just say, as far as when you pull those things, just know that when that fish hits, it's not going to hit like a real hard crankbait. It's going to load up like a wet sock, almost like that weight. And you just kind of go back with that fish for a second or two and just give her a nice swing. I normally go this time of year with a 2-hook spinner, and I use a night crawler. And I get away with real night crawlers on Lake of the Woods because there's not a lot of bait fish to steal it, and there's not a lot of weeds. So I use a crawler, and one of my tricks is I keep about 3 inches of worm off that second hook, and then I pinch it off. You don't need a real long piece of night crawler off that back hook. All that's going to happen is those walleyes will hit it, but they'll miss the hooks.
Mm-hmm.
they'll hit the shorter presentation. You'll have a lot better success.
And when it comes to pulling crankbaits, because there was a couple of times where I was going to switch over to cranks and I was looking at my rod setup and I was like, okay, I got to retie that. I'm going to have to do that and do this and that. And I was like, let's just stick with spinners.
And it was working for you.
It was, yeah. We didn't really need to switch, but I'd bought all these crankbaits. I wanted to try them out. And then I was like, I was just going to stick with spinners. But will you run bottom bouncers with your crankbaits? Will you do like a 3-way? How will you weigh down your crankbaits, Joe?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, what I normally do is I have lead core line that I use. So I have lead core reels that are line counter reels, and I have lead core line. And you can pick up a lead core rod and reel combo with a line counter reel for about $100 or less. It's pretty darn reasonable nowadays. And you know, the kicker there is that the line actually has lead in it, so it'll weight your lures down. And based on how much line you let out, your lures are going to get to the bottom of the lake in that 30, 35 feet of water. Now, lead core is one option, but I don't want people who don't fish this kind of fishing to think that they have to go and buy lead core, and that's going to deter them from fishing up there. I think a person can use a 4-ounce bottom bouncer. A 4-ounce bottom bouncer with a 6-foot piece of mono or fluorocarbon line with a shallow diving crankbait will work just fine. The kicker is lower that down to the bottom of the lake nice and easy so it doesn't get tangled. Some people use snap weights where they'll let a little line out and they'll put a snap weight of 2 or 3 ounces on there to weight their crankbaits down. Some people use deep diving cranks and they don't have to use a real big snap weight on there. So there's a number of ways. Downriggers are another way. And of course, downriggers are charter boats. Many of them have downriggers on, and that's really effective. But again, not everybody's going to have the money or the kind of boat to put a downrigger on. So I certainly want to bring up these other methods. And then of course, Brett, when you get your lures down there, then it's just a matter of letting the walleyes tell you what they want that given day. Every day can be different. So when you put that crankbait down there, you know what? If you and I are fishing together, let's start out with a different crank. Let's start out with different colors. Maybe we'll start out with different shapes. Maybe I'll use a jointed, you use a straight. Maybe I'll use one that's really erratic and use one that's got a tighter wobble. Let's work together and let's figure out what those walleyes want. Of course, the other thing is speed. How fast do you want to troll? I always kid around and talk about trolling like no offense, but trolling like a drunken sailor. Well, what that really means is when I kid around about it, it's speeding up, it's slowing down, it's making short turns to the left, short turns to the right, and that makes your lures do all sorts of funky things that will ultimately produce more strikes. So it's a lot of experimentation.
So let's talk about once you catch fish. Now, Dan Amundsen is with us here too. And Dan, one thing you started doing this year is bleeding our walleyes. And I've heard about bleeding fish forever, but I've usually thought about, say, salmon or some other fish when it comes to bleeding fish. I never really thought too much about bleeding walleyes, but that can make a big difference, can it?
Yeah, it really does. You know, I bled our fish in my boat, and there's times I clean some fish from another boat. The difference in those fillets, it's cleaner. You just get a whiter piece of meat, and you know, once it's in the boat, if you're planning on keeping that fish, once it's in the boat, it's no longer fish, it's a meal. You know, you got to treat it as a food source. You got to keep it that way. It's meat. You know, it's not just a fish. And so you got to handle it as such. And you know, do you really want this blood and whatnot on your fish? And yeah, you can wash some of it off, but it's not the same if you can drain it out. And so like when I did it, we got right back to, you know, I kept them alive at the landing, got back to the harbor, and as we were waiting to pull the boat out, I bled them there and let them drain out. And then by the time we got the boat out, it was time to clean them. And look how white those fillets are, nice and clean. And you know, they tasted fantastic.
Yeah, and if you watched our show last week, we had Hank Shaw on, Wild Game Chef. He talked about pressure bleeding fish, which is a whole nother thing. Even after bleeding fish, he used a pressure bleeding method and there was so much more blood that came out of them. Watch last week's show and our appearance with Hank Shaw to learn more about that. Now, Joe, say we bled the fish, and like Dan's got a live well in his boat. I don't. I usually just bring a cooler with, you know, or a bucket or something like that. I prefer to have a cooler, and I know you posted something on Lake of the Woods Tourism Facebook page about one of the guides up there making sure to get those fish on ice right away. It's important to take care of those fish once you got them in the boat, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you're going to keep these fish, let's do the best we can to have the best meat, kind of like Dan said. And, you know, this time of year, it's so warm that, you know, live wells will work good. The water in the live well can get kind of warm, and those fish can die and that sort of thing. So, and some boats don't have live wells. So what most of our charter boats do, for instance, is they bring a cooler of ice. And when you catch a walleye and you know you're going to keep it, you throw it on that cooler ice, and that stays ice cold until you clean them. Of course, that really does a nice job on that meat. And you don't have to worry about the hot summer temperatures.
All right, Joe. Well, there's still time left here in the summer for people to plan a trip up to Lake of the Woods, or maybe start thinking about, there's the picture of the cooler of the ice. We had the picture there. Now we got the eagle on, there it is. Eagle on the hay bale. All right, people want to plan a trip to the Northwest Angle, to the Rainy River, to Lake of the Woods, whether spring, summer, fall, whenever. Where should they go for more info?
You know what? For real-time info, check out our Lake of the Woods Tourism Facebook page. Otherwise, check out our website, and that is lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Northern Minnesota's Walleye Factory is a year-round world-class fishing destination. The perfect getaway this summer is just a short drive to Lake of the Woods. Fish Big Traverse Bay, the Rainy River, or visit the unique Northwest Angle. To catch big fish, you have to go where the big fish are. Plan your trip to Lake of the Woods at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. That's lakeofthewoodsmn.com. All right, our next guest spends a lot of time on the water too, but he's not on lakes. He's spending most of his time on rivers, catching some of the biggest fish in the state of Minnesota. No, we're not talking about walleyes or muskies. We're talking about bigger fish than that. Darren Troseth joins us right now. Darren, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Thanks for jumping in. I know this was kind of a last-minute interview request, so I appreciate you giving us some time and taking time out of your lunch break to join us today.
No problem. I always like to talk fishing.
You know, that episode we filmed for Prairie Sportsman is still one of my. I just thought that was a real cool episode, and that fishing for those flathead catfish, I think it's very popular in the state of Minnesota, of course, but it's kind of has its niche in there. So a lot of people don't understand how much fun that can be, and just what a great opportunity we have here in the state of Minnesota.
I kind of like it to musky fishing almost. Like, you go out and you spend a lot of time trying to catch that fish, and when you do, you feel like you accomplished something. But I think what kind of rings out is that, spending time in the river is just it's a whole different experience than most people are used to, So even the nights we don't catch fish, we just have a good time, just looking at wildlife and seeing things that happen on the river, because the river's ever changing. It seems pretty fluid. So, but then we'll have times we'll catch, some really nice big fish, and it's, I don't know, people seem to like it. And I think they're drawn to it the same reason that I'm drawn to it. So
when you think about the size of those flatheads, the state record's 70 pounds or whatever it is. But to be able to go out there and catch a 30 plus pound fish, have a legit chance at a 30 pound plus fish, or even bigger, that to me, that's exciting. I don't care what kind of, it could be a carp. When you're reeling in something that big, they're just strong, muscular fish. And when you think about fishing in the river too, and fishing with current, man, that can be a pretty wild experience out there, Darren.
Yeah. So just hooking into the fish is one thing. Now we're dealing with snags and current, and there's all kinds of different factors that go into getting this fish into the boats. So unfortunately, we didn't catch a big one the night you were out, but you kind of got the good idea of it, and big fish, they're not like super common, but there's, like you said, there's obviously a good chance of getting a 30 plus pounder, and a 30 pounder is fairly common actually on the river. So we don't get one every trip, but every few trips or so we probably get into one.
And that was so funny. We fished, and we actually fished for a long time that night filming for Prairie Sportsman. And we were watching a storm as it was coming in. We're like, gosh, we should probably think about getting out of here. And we're like, nah, we're good. We kept pushing it off, just trying to catch. I think we got the one channel or maybe a couple channels, I can't remember, but we were trying to get that flathead. And then finally, like every good fisherman, it's always one more cast if you're on the lake. But when you're in the river, it's like, all right, leave the lines in the water. We'll pack everything up. Well, you had the lights turned off. We were just getting ready to leave, and that's when we finally caught a flathead out there. So you just never know. You got to keep your stuff in the water as long as possible when you're out there.
Time on the water, that's the number one factor in catching a big fish. You got to keep those lines in the water. And I find myself getting into sometimes a bad situation, like I'll I'll not want to leave, and I forget that the people that are with me, you know, they probably have plans or they're going to leave, you know, and I'm looking at my watch where, you know, it's my trips usually go till midnight, you know, it's like 12:30. I got to remember, you know, we have to probably get out of here. Most of the time the people are okay with spending some extra time out there though, because they understand, you know, we're just trying to get that big fish. So.
You know, it was interesting. I live about 3 hours west of the Twin Cities. I'm not in the Twin Cities very often. I went to high school there, kind of grew up there a little bit, but we never really fished in the metro. And there's actually some really good fishing opportunities there in the metro. And we've been able to film a couple shows for Prairie Sportsman. Now we just put one out on Facebook on Bidet Makaska there, Lake Calhoun, I just saw somebody post on Facebook here the other day. Somebody caught a real big muskie out of there. So the fishing opportunities in the metro are pretty good. And the other river, and I know Dan is with us too. Dan Amundsen is with us too there. Hey, Dan. And Dan fishes the St. Croix. Sorry, I didn't even give you a chance to answer there, did I? Hi, Dan.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm used to it.
Sorry about that. Dan fishes the St. Croix quite a bit, and we got to learn about your big experience through the ice on the St. Croix on that Prairie Sportsman episode 2 where you caught that big sturgeon. That was pretty neat.
As far as opportunities go, I really think that the St. Croix River just has it all. You know, I mean, it's just a truly special fishery, and right next, you know, it's, you know, within half hour of a major metro area. So, I mean, you got big muskies, big smallmouth, you know, trophy walleyes, and then this sturgeon thing is really exploding. So it's, if I was to move somewhere close by, it would definitely be closer to the St. Croix because it's a special river.
I wanted to have you on too to talk about current conditions right now so we can give people some information because everything is so dry. Levels are low everywhere. What's it like where you fish around the metro area right now?
So I've had to adjust my schedule a little bit. The ramps I use, I started off using, I have a ramp close to my house in Jordan that I've been using quite a bit. But as the waters come down, I've just slowly moved my ramps that I use downstream where the bigger water is. And there's some spots further downstream where they actually keep it open, navigable for the barges. So that makes it a little easier for me. But currently it's, we're nearing record levels. But the thing is, once you are near those record levels, things are barely moving right now. It's basically flatlined. So it's easy to say, it's super low. We're at record levels. Well, it's probably been this way, several other times. It's just that we're splitting hairs when we get to this level right now. And we probably may never even get to a record level just because there's so many more municipalities and businesses that are, they're dumping water, as part of their business back into the river. So I think where we are, it's just going to be flatline probably for the rest of the year, but it definitely is causing some challenges. People are going off the end of the ramp with their trailers and getting hung up and ripping their tires off and stuff. But that's part of the learning experience. I've been there myself. So I think once you learn how to do that, you shouldn't have any issues, and you just have to be careful. That's all. You can still get around. Yes, it's low, but people are pretty reactive to current conditions, and I've seen it before, and I think we're okay.
I fish in a lot of places where you have to worry about reefs or big snags, or it gets real busy and you're dealing with other boaters and things like that. It's not very often you have to watch out for a barge.
Yeah, that's definitely something you need to watch out for in the areas we fish. And currently, that as this river is getting narrower and narrower, you have to be sure to give them a lot more room. And I'm sure it gets frustrating for those barge operators out there. I've ran into a couple sticky situations already this year, where, communication may not have been the best, and, we're scrambling to get out of their way. But they got the right of way, and you just need to make room for them. So that's one of the things you got to keep your head on a swivel for.
Now, are you, in the wintertime, you switch over and you guide for sturgeon on the St. Croix, right, in the winter? Do you do some open water sturgeon over there as well?
Yeah, actually, the open water sturgeon is actually almost more popular than the catfishing thing I'm doing. So starting September, I'll go through September right up through ice up. I usually try to schedule through mid-November, but, if we can go through December, I'll still take my boat out there if it's possible. I'm set up where I have a canopy and a heater, and as long as we can get the boat out there, the fish are going to be biting. So, But yeah, I mean, it's, as far as I know, I think I have one date left available for the rest of the year, so it's pretty popular.
All right. Well, I was going to have you plug the business. I mean, obviously we'll still plug it, but you don't need to. How big was that sturgeon? That was a new catch and release record, right?
Yeah, the sturgeon I caught through the ice was 78 inches, so that's the current catch and release record. And the estimated weight was 120 pounds, give or take, 10% or whatever. But I keep telling people I expect that thing to get beaten, here in the next year or two. I mean, especially these fish up on the Rainy River just keep getting bigger and bigger. And we've seen a lot of big fish come out of the Rainy River this spring. Some of which probably surpass the weight of the one that I caught. So just a matter of time,
That was going to be my next question, is how long do you think that record would stand?
I would say probably a year or two is my guess. In fact, the fish I caught, I think it might have been caught even a couple times, this past year. So that fish is eventually going to get bigger too. So I'm just kind of riding out the wave here while I can, but it's going to get beat sooner or later.
It's kind of a neat story about the sturgeon in Minnesota, and when you talk about the big fish that are getting caught right now, and how you wouldn't be surprised if your record gets broken, because your fish was huge, and to think that could get broken, maybe a handful of times in the next few years, it's really a testament to the recovery efforts that have gone on with that fish.
Oh, absolutely. The DNR's done a really good job with bringing these fish back, and they're putting them different parts of the state too, and it's going to give more and more people an opportunity to experience these fish. And I think they're the perfect sport fish, to be honest with you. I mean, they take well to catch and release. They get large, they do battle. They jump out of the water. It's just they're really easy to fish. To me, it's the best sport fish in the state.
They're so cool because they're so old. I mean, it's literally like catching a dinosaur. But the fact, when you talk about them jumping out of the water like that, like we were up on Lake of the Woods here a couple of weeks ago fishing, and I was in my boat, I think with my dad, and then we had a couple other, I think Dan and your dad were in the boat not far away from us, maybe like 30 yards away from us, something like that. You guys are both hooked up with fish. Both the rods are bent over each side of the boat, and we're kind of watching. And in the middle of it, we see a sturgeon jump in between the two boats, like a big sturgeon. So we thought maybe that they'd hooked into a big sturgeon, but no, it was a couple of really nice walleyes, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were decent. Mine was, I'll admit, mine was smaller, but yeah, that was wonderful chaos. I like to call that moment with a couple of walleyes and big sturgeon in between. It's so cool. So neat. It
was really cool. All right, Darren, we'll let you get back. Three Rivers Fishing Adventures is the guide business. How can people reach you?
They can check out my website, threeriversfishingadventures.com. I got a Facebook page, and my phone number is 612-247-1579. I don't have many dates left available this year, but you can go ahead and check it out. I'm sure next year will be wide open pretty soon.
Very good. Darren Troseth, thanks for the time today on the show.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
OnX Hunt. Ever heard of it? Next time you see that guy at your local shop who always punches his tag on a stud whitetail, ask him. He'll tell you about the most trusted source for mapping, with nationwide landowner names, private and public land boundaries, including walk-in areas, map tools to mark spots, and the ability to view your maps without cell service. And that's just scratching the surface. It's your time to be known as the big buck guy around town. Download the leader in hunt mapping on Google Play or the App Store. OnX Hunt. Know where you stand.